Hey everyone. Ready to dive into something all programmers think about? Like, how do you actually keep up in the coding world? It changes so fast, it can feel like you're learning a new language, but then all the rules change again.
That's true.
But that's why we're here, with this deep dive to give you some real strategies for keeping those coding skills sharp. And honestly, some of the stuff we found is pretty cool, even unexpected. Think of today like we're handing you a treasure map, and it's leading you right to the best ways to keep learning as a programmer.
What I liked right away about the stuff we read,
Hmm.
it doesn't sugarcoat it. It goes straight for the why even bother question.
Yeah.
Like, we've all been there, deadlines looming, your code's working. Why would you mess with learning something new
Oh,
then?
tell me about it. Like, I've got my trusty JavaScript, it does the job. Why learn a whole new update when this one's fine? But this source, they're saying it's bigger than that. It's not just keeping up, it's about becoming like a flat out better coder.
One thing they said that stuck with me is when you really get the newest tech, it actually makes you better at solving any problem. Makes sense, right?
The more you've got in your coding toolbox, the more creative you can be when a challenge pops up. There's this great story in here, actually, about a developer who got their dream job specifically because they had learned this, like, kind of obscure language nobody else was using. Turns out that language was the perfect fit for a huge project the company had, and nobody else could figure it out.
See, that's the click moment this source is all about. It's not about checking boxes on your resume. It's like
Yeah.
unlocking skills you didn't even know could exist.
It's like leveling up in a video game. Suddenly you've got these moves you didn't before, and it changes how you play entirely.
Exactly. Now, one thing they hit on early is don't stray too far from the source. We're talking read those official docs, the release notes, all that stuff that's straight from the creators.
Yeah, gotta be honest. Sometimes that stuff feels about as fun as reading, like an instruction manual.
I hear ya, but that's where the info is going to be the most accurate. No fluff, right from the source. Like, let's say you're big into Python, and we know we've got some Python fans out there. They say, regularly go check out that What's New in Python section.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense.
You'll pick up on the subtle changes, the new stuff they're adding that you might totally miss otherwise.
It's like having a direct line to the folks who made Python, and you get a sneak peek of what they're working on.
Exactly. But it's not all about, like, solo study sessions, right?
Yeah.
This source also talks about how important online communities are. Think like Stack Overflow, GitHub, Reddit,
Mm.
even those Discord groups or Slack channels for specific languages.
Oh, it's like having this 24/7 support group that gets it, the late night coding, the feeling when you finally fix that bug. Have you ever been totally stuck? Then someone on some forum online gives you this answer that's like elegant, obvious, you'd never have thought of it.
It happens all the time. It's the best. And that's the beauty of those communities. You're not just getting answers. You're tapping into, like, the combined brain power of tons of other coders.
It's like a built-in cheering section, but instead of pom-poms, they're waving lines of code.
But our deep dive doesn't stop in the digital world.
Right, right, definitely not. They talk about how important those in-person events still are. Conferences, meetups, all that.
Is there anything like being in a room and everyone's buzzing about the same coding stuff you are?
Totally agree. They mention ones like PyCon, JavaNon, RubyConf, Imagine, being surrounded by like hundreds, thousands of people who speak your language.
Literally and figuratively, right.
Exactly.
And I mean, virtual events are great, don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
super accessible.
Yeah.
But there's a different kind of energy when you're actually there in person.
100%. It's the side conversations, bumping into someone and brainstorming on the fly. Grabbing coffee with someone who could be your mentor. That's where the real spark happens. And you know what else is sparking? All these incredible online learning platforms out there.
You've got your, like, big names, Coursera, EDX, Udemy, Pluralsight, all those. But they also get into some that are off the beaten path, for when you want to learn something super specific.
I like that. Got to find the hidden gems.
Right. And the best part is a lot of these places, they don't just throw videos at you. They've got you actually building things, projects to get hands on.
That's what they always say, right? You learn by doing. And speaking of, something else I thought was interesting, the source talks about using these sandbox environments so you can try out the latest, newest features or even whole new language without the fear of like breaking your actual work.
Oh, for sure. It's like your coding playground. You can mess around, try anything, maybe even discover a whole new way to solve a problem you'd never thought of before.
Yeah. Like, think about all those JavaScript folks who were dying to try out the newest ECMAScript stuff. They could just spin up a Node.js environment and go nuts, see what that new syntax did, how it changed things.
Exactly. Low pressure way to really get the hang of something new. But here's the thing, right? With all these resources, all these ways to learn, it's easy to get overwhelmed.
Oh, 100%. It's like you walk into the coding knowledge library and there's just shelves everywhere. Where do you even start?
And the source, they get that. They say it's not enough to just take in information. You got to be smart about it. Treat your coding journey like, I don't know, anything else that matters to you. Set goals.
Yes, love that. Instead of just clicking on whatever framework is trendy this week, take a second, ask yourself, what do I actually want to do? What skills will get me there?
Exactly. Maybe it's mastering this one specific thing in the language you already use. Maybe it's going all in on learning a brand new one, whatever. Having those goals, that's going to keep you focused, keep you motivated.
It's like now you've got a coding roadmap instead of just wandering around lost in the woods of software development.
Speaking of roadmap,
Mm-hmm.
they had some good tips on figuring out what skills are hot right now, what companies actually want.
Which, let's be real, is important. Can't just learn stuff in a vacuum and hope it lines up with the job market, right?
One thing they said was become a job market detective, basically.
Yeah. Ooh, I like that.
Go on those job boards, not even to apply, just to look, what are they asking for? What languages, what tools keep popping up? Pay attention to that stuff.
It's market research, but for your coding career. They also mentioned those big developer surveys that come out every year from places like Stack Overflow, JetBrains, GitHub.
Oh, yeah, those are gold mines. They'll tell you what's hot, what's not, what everyone's loving, what everyone's, maybe not loving so much. Gives you the inside scoop.
It's like you get the combined wisdom and complaints of like thousands of developers all over.
Exactly. Now, learning new stuff is key, but this source, they didn't forget about getting better at what you already do.
And they brought up something that honestly can be a little scary at first. Code reviews.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But they made this point, and I gotta agree, when they're done right, code reviews are one of the best ways to level up your skills. And it's not just about getting feedback, it's about giving it too, When you have to explain your code to someone else, why you did it that way,
Mm-hmm.
it makes you a stronger coder overall.
It's like having a coding coach right there with you. And you know what else reminds me of that? Pair programming. Have you ever been pairing with someone and they show you this trick, this shortcut you'd never have thought of?
All the time.
Yeah.
It's like watching a coding magician, I swear. And those moments, they stick with you. You learn so much.
It's like having a team of mentors built right in, always pushing you to be better.
And you know what else is great about pairing? You break out of your coding bubble. You see there's like 10 ways to solve the same problem, not just your one way.
Right. Like how many times have you gotten stuck doing something one way, then someone's like, oh, you could just do this.
Exactly. Now, remember those developer surveys we were talking about?
Yeah.
This source had this cool idea for using them, beyond just seeing what's popular.
Okay, tell me more.
They said, treat version control, like Git, as more than just, the place you keep your code.
Interesting. How do you mean beyond actually using it to, like, manage your projects?
Think about it.
Mm-hmm.
When you're following those repos for languages you use, frameworks, whatever, you're basically watching them evolve in real time.
Okay, yeah, you see the code changing, right?
Right. You see why they made the changes. You can even get a heads up on stuff they're going to add before it's even released.
So you're like a fly on the wall, but for coding. I love that.
Exactly. They even had this example, some developer who found this super useful feature, like buried in the recent commits on GitHub for their favorite framework. Changed how they work entirely.
It's like finding hidden treasure, but instead of digging up gold, it's code.
Speaking of Trevor,
Yeah.
we got to talk about side projects.
Oh, yeah, every programmer's favorite thing, right? Where you can just, like, build whatever you want, experiment, have fun with it.
This source, they said side projects. It's not just a hobby. It's like investing in your coding skills.
Yeah.
When you're working on something that actually excites you, you'll learn new stuff without even realizing it.
It's the difference between, like, reading a textbook because you have to versus getting lost in a book because you can't put it down.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe that side project you're messing around with, it turns into the next big thing.
Right.
Or at least you can talk about it in job interviews, right?
Before we wrap this whole thing up, gotta address the elephant in the room, or the AI in the code editor, I guess you could say.
Oh, here we go. AI-powered coding.
Yeah.
It's everywhere now. Those tools, your GitHub Copilots, your ChatGPTs, they're definitely changing the game.
It's wild, right? It's you've got this coding buddy who can practically read your mind, suggesting stuff based on like a million lines of code it's already seen. The source even said, these AI tools, they can help you write better code, cleaner, more efficient, and you can even pick up new skills along the way.
Totally. But, and this is important, they were really clear. Use them responsibly.
Oh,
Don't just copy-paste whatever the AI spits out.
right, right.
Understand why it's suggesting that. Does it actually make sense? Are you learning from it?
Hmm.
You're still the one in control.
Like, think of it as a GPS for coding. It's great for directions, but you're still the one driving the car.
Now, one last thing from this source that I thought was really important. Don't forget about the power of reading
Yeah.
and writing. Good old-fashioned blogs.
Oh, man. In a world of, like, flashy videos and stuff, the blog post can feel kind of forgotten. You're right.
Right. But seriously, some of the best, most in-depth info comes straight from the people who built the stuff we use every day.
They said, check out the blogs from the big companies, obviously, your Googles, Microsofts, all those tons of good stuff there. But also, don't be afraid to dive into individual developers' blogs.
Exactly. Find the people who are, like, obsessed with the same niche stuff you are. That's where the real gold is.
And it's not just about reading either. They said, write your own stuff. When you're learning something new, struggling with something, figure it out. Blog about it.
You're not only helping other people, you're solidifying it in your own mind, too.
It's like they say, the best way to learn is to teach. So, there we have it, everyone. Our deep dive into keeping those coding skills sharp. I know it can feel overwhelming, but just remember, focus on what you think is cool, set goals you can actually reach, and never, ever stop learning.
Best skill you can have in this field. Adaptability. Things change constantly, but if you love learning, you're going to be just fine.
Love that. So last thought for you all as you go back to your code editors. What's one thing you heard today that you're going to try this week? New platform, finally read those docs, even just committing to 30 minutes a day just for you to keep those skills sharp. Little steps add up, folks. Until next time, happy coding.